It's officially been over a decade since Kendrick Lamar released his heavily anticipated second studio album, To Pimp a Butterfly. The album received critical acclaim upon its release and was even deemed an instant classic by many overzealous hip hop listeners. But clearly, they were in the right to do so, as the album has since been called one of the greatest albums of all time, regardless of genre. Upon re listening to the album, it caused me to reflect on the year that 2015 was. To Pimp a Butterfly was also released alongside many great hip hop albums, such as Drake's If You're Reading This Too Late, Summertime '06 from Vince Staples, as well as Meek Mill's Dreams Worth More Than Money, ASAP Rocky's At Long Last ASAP, Earl Sweatshirt's I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside, and Big Sean's Dark Sky Paradise, and Travis Scott's Rodeo. These albums, as well as the other albums released in the same year, help cement the fact that the newest generation of hip hop stars had come along, and they were here to stay. The year featured debut albums from artists who would become permanent fixtures in the genre for years to come, as well as swan songs from artists that had established themselves in the past. This was still a time in hip hop where artists prioritized lyrical ability, the cohesiveness of an album, and ensuring that their sound was unique within their lane. However, the following year, the genre will be flipped entirely on its head, with artists who didn't adhere to any of the norms and traditions hip hop typically followed. But before we get there, we must first understand what made 2015 the greatest year in hip hop history. After two of the genre's biggest stars died in the feud between the East Coast and the West Coast, many thought the genre would be amid a perpetual downslide. However, as the turn of the century came, hip hop will become more mainstream and more commercial than previous generations could possibly fathom. Artists like Eminem, Jay-Z, and 50 Cent picked up where the hip hop forefathers left off and elevated the genre to new heights. With their influence, they were able to inspire the new generation of artists to come, and the cycle of picking up where the previous generation left off began anew. As hip hop transitioned from the blog era into what would become the streaming era, several stars had cemented themselves as the future of hip hop. Besides the big three of Kendrick Lamar, Drake, and J. Cole, you also had artists like ASAP Rocky, Tyler the Creator, Joey Badass, to name a few, who were also on a similar trajectory of greatness. But they were also legends in the game who decided that 2015 would be the year for their reemergence. To coincide with the autobiographical film Straight Outta Compton, legendary West Coast artist Dr. Dre returned to release his album simply titled Compton. His protege, The Game, followed up his critical and commercially successful album, The Documentary, with a sequel. Other older acts that released albums during this year were Scarface, Ghostface Killer, and Lil Boosie, which was significant at the time because he was released from prison after beating a murder charge. 2015 would serve as a monumental year for hip hop, as the genre would see a metamorphosis in the prototypical style and sound of the genre. 2015 saw the emergence of an originally niche sound that became more mainstream as the years progressed. Young Thug, Migos, and Future releases in 2015 further helped cement Atlanta as the mecca of hip hop in the 21st century. While artists like Outkast played a major role in making Atlanta a staple, the aforementioned artists' trap albums broke through the ceiling that Southern hip hop was limited to and transported it across the globe. While all these artists had buzz in the years prior, 2015 was the years they became household names. The Migos dropped their cult classic album, Young Rich Nation, before their significant ascension with their follow-up album, Culture, the next year. Future dropped three extremely successful albums, Beast Mode, 56 Nights, DS2, and his collaboration with Drake, What a Time to Be Alive. However, it would be Young Thug who would have the biggest influence on the genre as a whole, with his impressionable listeners growing up to emulate his style and sound with the release of his mixtape, Barter 6. The title itself being a reference to Lil Wayne's Carter series in the midst of his legal battles with Birdman. Barter 6 was influential because it redefined what a rap voice could be. Young Thug treated his voice like an instrument, bending, warping, and singing in unpredictable ways, breaking traditional rap cadences and structures. Paired with his experimental delivery, opened the door for a new wave of melodic, emotionally accessible trap artists. It showed that feeling, tone, and vibe could matter more than bars or clarity. It influenced artists like Lil Uzi Vert, Playboy Cardi, and even mainstream rap embrace of. Looking back, 2015 wasn't just a big year for hip hop, it was a full blown game changer. It brought together the OGs, the lyrical heavyweights, and a new wave of artists who were ready to do things their own way. Albums like To Pimp a Butterfly kept the soul and storytelling alive, while artists like Future and Young Thug flipped the sound completely and made space for something fresh. That year didn't just reflect what hip hop was, it set the tone for where it was going. And honestly, we're still feeling the impact. The sounds, the styles, the vibes that took over in 2015 are still shaping rap today.